Welcome to the Dynasty Football Key. My goal is to unlock the path to winning your leagues. We're going to be talking NFL and fantasy football year-round, so like and subscribe to stay ahead of the game. Today, we are going to be talking about buy low and sell high players. So I've got some stuff queued up for us right here, and really excited to jump in and start talking about some of these guys here. So I've got Keep Trade cut up, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the buy highs. So I've got some points I want to mention here first. So when I say buy high, the sound process is not to overspend. Instead, getting in on early rookie or a player that you believe in to rise, that's what I'd prefer to do. We don't really want to give up all our assets in most cases. If you really want to buy high on a high-end player, top player like CeeDee Lamb right now, I understand, but it may make more sense to trade for Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, who had their quarterbacks get injured, right? Buy low, just generally a way to gain upside without crippling your team. A sell high is when you have a defined tier of players that you like and want to trade away a highly praised player in exchange for a player who you still believe will score similarly while also receiving a bonus draft pick or a good player. And a sell low makes sense when you have a player you can't start due to them underperforming and you believe that trend's going to continue. Selling low takes conviction. You have to be willing to receive a lower value than it took to acquire that player before none of your league mates will give you anything, right? Because then you're forced to drop that player. This is why it makes sense to stay active. You don't want to be that league mate in your league who's trading away players who are about to retire, because that's just very obvious. So you need to trade early rather than late. Be willing to take a second-round pick in season for an underperforming rookie, even though you drafted them in the first round. I'm all for being patient, but history shows that year one lack of success means it's likely this player won't deliver in future years. So let's start with the buy highs. I've got some examples. For me, again, I'm not wanting to buy high. I'm not wanting to give up those additional assets that I may be using to build my team, especially as a rebuilder. But if I am going to suggest some just for you guys to help out, I might buy high on those top three running backs and even some rookies from this past season that I liked at the wide receiver position, Jaden Reed and Rashee Rice. So I've pulled up here on Keep Trade Cut. I've got Bijan, Breece Hall, Gibbs. This is their value. You can see that actually Bijan has dipped from his peak value on draft day. He was really highly touted as the next greatest running back of all time, basically. He didn't even outscore his teammate, who's Tyler Allgeier's rookie year. So Tyler Algier had a better 2022 than Bijan had in 2023 is what I'm saying, when Tyler Algier was a rookie. So, it didn't go that way. So his value has dipped. I still don't consider it a buy low because, you see these 7,000 points here. That's pretty high. He's the number one running back. So you're still buying high. I just think that based on the running back landscape, the combination of age, pass catching ability, and role, I really like. I could see in 2 years Tyler Allgeier's out of the picture. I could see Bijan amongst all of the other running backs really having a chance to have that full workload. So I like Bijan Robinson as a long-term dynasty asset. Same with Breece Hall, and he's going to be getting Aaron Rodgers added to his team. He only had 4 snaps with him in 2023. I think he's shown after his ACL injury last year that he is really good at football. So Brees Hall with the Jets, he's got the pass catching upside you want. I think between him and Garrett Wilson, those are the top two targets. We'll see what they do in the draft. It sounds like they're going to go offensive lineman, so I don't see a big time weapon coming in to threaten either Brees or Garrett Wilson. And for the Detroit running back Jahmyr Gibbs, only going to be 22 years old this next season. Brees will be 23, Bijan will be 22, but Gibbs has a pass catching workload. David Montgomery likely only has a couple more seasons with the Lions. These three have the common trait of high reception ability. I really like that, and the age is on their side for me to want to invest in them. This 2024 rookie draft class is light on running backs. The 2025 and 2026 draft classes may have running backs, which definitely there are some that I'm aware of. We're not wanting to wait that long, and also these running backs that I just named, I feel very good about them going into the future. So and quickly I'll just show that they're all three valued above a 2024 early first round pick. That would be in the range of some of the rookie quarterbacks and rookie wide receivers. So that, maybe quarterback 2 range to Malik Neighbor range. I could see people wanting maybe some of those players over these guys. However, I can't. It's really close between those players. All right, so let's look at those receivers I had mentioned. So let's scroll down to find Rashee Rice and Jaden Reed. So Rashee Rice, his value has continued to rise. That's why this is considered a buy high. It really hasn't taken a big dip at any point. The number one wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, is getting older. Rashee Rice will only be 24, even though he was an older prospect coming into the league. He's shown that he can command targets, and he's got a long future ahead of him tied to Patrick Mahomes. Not too far away, you'll see Jaden Reed also going to be 24 years old. They're actually the exact same age. Jaden Reed has a young quarterback. I believe that pass catching group is a little more, a little more, a lot more options for Jordan Love is what I'm saying versus the Patrick Mahomes situation. However, Jaden Reed has shown me that he is really good and can command targets. So I believe in him. He's someone that, I don't want to invest too much more than Rashee Rice, just because that role with Rashee Rice seems more clear. The Chiefs are going to be picking later in the draft. So, the receiver they get could definitely take targets away, but they have to draft that receiver. So far, we haven't seen the Chiefs draft a first-round receiver in a while. So if it's a late second-round receiver, then Rashee Rice really has a good opportunity to continue to command those targets with that extra year under his belt, with the rookie, record for most, I believe, yardage as a rookie wide receiver. Excuse me, that was Rashee Rice. But for Jaden Reed, yes, he came in with Dontavian Wicks also as a rookie, and there are a lot of other year 2 players. They have the youngest team in the league, definitely the youngest wide receiver group and tight end group, who had 2 rookies at tight end last season. There's a lot of guys there. Still, I believe in what Jaden Reed has done. I'm just saying that Rashee Rice, I'm more comfortable giving up that late first round pick, very late first round pick. Whereas Jaden Reed is more, maybe I want something back. Maybe I want a 2025 second back if I'm giving up that late first. Still, I see some good things coming for these guys. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and move on to the buy lows. Buy low. We'll stay here with the wide receivers. Garrett Wilson. Now, I'm scrolling up. So how is this a buy low? Garrett Wilson here is player number 19 and wide receiver 6, just below Puka Nacua. His value has been higher than this in the past, but due to that injury to Aaron Rodgers and his consecutive season of Garrett Wilson having to have the quarterback be Zach Wilson, and just having inconsistent targets, accuracy, really, Garrett Wilson hasn't ever been in a good situation. However, he has proved to be really good. Let me show one other. Let me show some stats here of Garrett Wilson. So I will open up the screen. All right. So let's take a look at Garrett Wilson here. He was 15th in receptions this past season. However, in total targets, he was 4th. 168 targets. That is, incredible. And we know how much Aaron Rodgers likes to lock onto his top target. I think Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, that's a great combination. I don't even have to oversell this. It's just, I've made trades involving Garrett Wilson. We can see here 5.5 receptions per game. That's, very low compared to a lot of these other folks here. So, that's 17th. Let's see if he can get some more consistent targets. I believe he's a great target to go after, for folks to go and get. I'm going to stop the screen there and go back over to keep trade cut, and I want to show just where we've got Garrett Wilson amongst the draft picks. So Garrett Wilson, they've got above a first-round pick, a mid-first-round pick, early 2025 second-round pick, just below a 2024 early first. If we're comparing it to Malik Neighbors, I think Garrett Wilson's right on par with Malik Neighbors, who's consistently going at the 105 in rookie drafts. So if you are a little bit hesitant on a Malik Neighbors, I can understand that. However, maybe Malik Neighbors gets a much better landing spot. So, you want to see if that can boost Neighbors or someone in that 105 range a little bit more. The trade I did was giving up Puka Nacua and a second-round pick in exchange for Garrett Wilson and a first-round pick. If when I mentioned the tiers earlier, Garrett Wilson, they've got in his own little tier here, but really that's just 200 points, 230 points below Puka Nacua. That's not much at all. And if we think the production goes up for Garrett Wilson, then what's really the difference between he and Puka Nacua, who, again, Puka Nacua has Cooper Kupp. We know age is a factor. Both quarterbacks are aging, so that's a wash. However, the wide receiver 2 for the Jets is nowhere near what Cooper Kupp is as the Triple Crown winner in the past. He does have Breece Hall. Still, I think Garrett Wilson has room to maintain where he is on this position. And if you can get anything on top for a slight buy into him versus one of these upper guys, I'm interested. Or even some of those first round picks, I'm interested in. Anything after the 105, I would easily trade for Garrett Wilson, and even the 105 or do like a mid to late first plus the second to get Garrett Wilson. I'm interested in that as well. I would go ahead and move on to the Falcons. Really, this one is simple. We have seen that they've got a new coaching staff in place that has really given some confidence in potential better use for the Falcons. I had already mentioned Bijan Robinson as a buy high, but a Kyle Pitts, a Drake London, those values are still pretty low. Let's see if I can find London on here. They've got him as the wide receiver 14, and he's in the tier with the mid 24 first. Nico Collins. And just from what I've been hearing, I think folks are a little bit lower on him. You do see a recent rise. This is definitely due to some of the coaching changes that are going on here. But Drake London with the Atlanta Falcons, 6'4" wide receiver, really, we're just waiting for this guy to break out. So let's buy in while we still can. Same with Kyle Pitts. Traditionally, we've seen third-year breakouts or much later for tight ends. Not what we've been seeing this past 2023 season with all of the rookies breaking out. Kyle Pitts, let's go ahead and move over to tight end so we can show it. Kyle Pitts, he'll be here at the top. Right, we've got Kyle Pitts, tight end 6. 23 years old, very young. He had a incredible rookie season for a tight end. Fell off the years after, really had some injuries that he's been dealing with as well. I believe in Kyle Pitts. He is 6'6". These are some big targets that they have in Atlanta, and we think that they're going to draft a quarterback one way or another, or add a quarterback one way or another, because they did bench their quarterback at the end of the season, Desmond Ridder. That leads us to believe that they are in the market for another quarterback. And last but not least, while we were here at the tight end position, I wanted to highlight Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, and he's on the older side. Maybe this is more for a rebuilder. I just know that at this point, we are used to seeing tight ends who produce later in their career. Evan Ingram was that young rookie tight end who had one of those record seasons back in 2017. But now he's paired with Trevor Lawrence and really looks good. He had a great season. You see the value slightly rising, but this trade value is pretty low. They're showing mid-second round pick. In this class, you can argue you may want that second round pick. There's going to be running backs going in that range. So if you can sell, a late second and a third, or if you can, if you really need that tight end, maybe you give that mid-second, in a 12-team league, that's getting close to beyond the tier I like. There's about 18 to 20 players that I really like. The middle of the second is 18 picks in. So I think that is about fair value to get someone that's going to produce. And I will show the production here. So let's go back over and look at the production for some of the players I mentioned on this buy low. Since we're on the since we're on the reception per game, I'll leave it here. Evan Ingram, 6.7 receptions per game. That is 7th in the NFL. That's really good for a tight end. Overall receptions, 114. That is 4th in the NFL. This is Evan Ingram. The Jacksonville Jaguars are expected to have a decision to re-sign Calvin Ridley. If they don't do that and they decide to go with the rookie, maybe Trevor Lawrence leans on Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram as his top 2 targets. In my opinion, the tight ends you want need to be the top 2 targets in their offense. They either need to be the number 1, like Kelsey had been in many years past, or they need to be the tight end 2. If you're one of those, I'm actually really comfortable with having my starting lineup. If you're the third option, it's going to be inconsistent, the production that you get from that tight end, and anything after that, you're hoping for a touchdown. With the tight ends, you're usually hoping for a touchdown anyway. Still, this is how I really view the tight end position. They need to be a top 2 target to really compete. And of course, it's really usually just the top few tight ends that are doing that. But there's a path for Evan Ingram to be the top 2 target on his team. And while I have it, the targets, Evan Ingram 12th in targets, 143. So that's been incredible for him. Let's highlight really quickly Drake London on here. 29th in targets. Okay. Not amazing. However, okay. And then 41st in receptions. Really could use a quarterback boost. We'll see what happens there. But still, really like what Drake London's got to offer. So let's move along and go to the sell high candidates here. Some targets for us. So we got Puka Nacua. While I'm here on this page, I'll go ahead and highlight Puka. 9th in receptions, 7th in targets, and receptions per game, that's 11th for Puka. To start the season, Puka was the only wide receiver option that Matthew Stafford had. So those first few games, if you look at those games, they, I'm not going to say they pushed it up 1 target per game across the season, but, that made a difference. With that said, Cooper Kupp is only getting older. I'm not counting out Cooper Kupp this next season. And this is Dynasty, so Puka Nacua has a lot in front of him, a lot of his career in front of him. Stafford has, really targeted one receiver. So we'll see how long Stafford stays with the team. There are multiple receivers. Calvin Johnson. There is obviously Cooper Kupp. There is Kenny Galladay in Detroit. And now Puka Nacua. These are all receivers who have broken records for most either receptions or yards in a season. Stafford has really elevated these receivers. I really don't want to jump the gun on when Stafford is leaving, but if Puka has any other quarterback, there's almost no quarterback that is hyper targeting someone other than, we saw Dak Prescott this year. We saw that in Kirk Cousins may hyper target a Justin Jefferson. We don't see it too often. Aaron Rodgers has done in the past with Devontae Adams. If Stafford's gone in the future, it's one thing. And really, when it comes down to it, when I'm talking about the sell high, I'm saying sell high. I'm saying what can you get that is making this a win for you, so you're not just selling for anything. Let's go ahead and look at some of the value that you can get for Puka Nacua. So I'm going to bring back up Keep Trade Cut. And we'll go over to the wide receivers. Let's refresh this. So Puka, he is the 5th receiver here, will be 23 years old. Meteoric rise from the depths of the 5th round in the offseason. So, really incredible. But like I mentioned, I was able to trade Garrett Wilson in the 2nd for Puka Nacua in the 1st. If you think these players are very similar, see what you can get on top. Just float it out there. See if there's someone that's just really excited about Puka Nacua. It's hard to not like Puka. It's really, I think it's impossible. Love that guy. So see what you can get done here. They've got Puka valued right behind an early 1st. So again, in that Malik Neighbors range. I don't think you should necessarily take him over the quarterbacks in that range. Just depends on need. If it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, it's really hard to take Puka over them. But I could definitely see someone doing it, especially before the NFL draft when we don't know exactly where Drake May lands. Caleb Williams, we feel a little bit more comfortable with. But there's 3 quarterbacks with rushing upside, so it's just really tough to want to pass on any of those guys. So I would say 105 and beyond, I would easily trade away for Puka Nacua because you're hoping Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze and those types become a Puka Nacua here in this 2024 season and beyond. Otherwise, or I should say, a first, 107 and a second, probably, you might be able to stomach that type of a trade if you're comfortable with the third receiver or potentially the tight end in this draft. See, really try to sell high though. If you can get 2 first in the future for Puka, if you can stay within your top tier of rookies, I have a big 2, then a top 5, and then a top 7, and I expect something happens in the draft to elevate someone to be that top 8 that people are really, maybe even reaching on. So if you can get in that top 5 for Puka, that's great. If you can get in that top 7 plus something, that's great. I've also got the Texans on here, so while we're on the wide receivers, let's look at Nico Collins. Let's see if I can scroll down enough to get our other Texan areas. Tank Dell. So Nico Collins, Tank Dell, paired with the now Offensive Rookie of the Year, CJ Stroud. Really incredible season for all involved, everyone, the staff included, for the Texans. An amazing season. Capitalize on that. Again, Rookie of the Year, that news came out last night at the NFL Honors. If you can send out to your league mates, hey, Rookie of the Year, CJ Stroud, just reminding people these receivers are attached to CJ Stroud going forward. Yes, they may draft another wide receiver. I would if they were them, because they've given John Mechie a lot of time to recover from his illness in the offseason, and they made the playoffs. So this is now a win now team. So as much as we want everyone there to be successful, the Texans know there's a window, and there's the future contract of Nico Collins. Not this year, but in 2025 is something they have to deal with. So the combination of just wanting to help your rookie quarterback, or now sophomore, incredible quarterback, help him as much as possible, give him more weapons maybe. And that's the reason I think maybe sell high. Also, both receivers dealt with some injury, mainly Tank Dell, due to the size. Still, the value of these players is up, both in the 5,000 range, only separated by 200 points. I would say see what you can sell. Right now, they've got them valued as a first. Nico's right below a mid-first, but all of this is in the same tier. So, this is really tough. The Malik Neighbors, I'm fine taking that gamble. I don't think after Brock Bowers, I would take the gamble of just doing a 1-for-1 swap, and that one specifically, for Bowers might not be smart. However, if you can get the 107 plus a second for Nico Collins, that actually may make sense, especially if you're rebuilding or are in a deep league and need some assets. I like that idea of getting 107 plus. If you can get the 105 straight up, I would do that. That's the range a lot of these guys here are in for me. Absolutely willing to tear down to that rookie and see what I can get on top for anyone that's just really excited about these players. So let's go ahead and move on to our sell low. Um, let's go ahead and clarify that, this is tougher for win now teams. Um, so I'll segment this into win now and rebuilders. So for a rebuilder team, I think, I really think Quentin Johnston, or excuse me, for a rebuilder team, I think the aging veterans is who we want to try to just go ahead and get rid of. This one's the most obvious, I think, of all of the advice here. When we're talking about a Keenan Allen, who I don't know if you saw, but on the stat sheet, he was the number one receptions per game getter in the eight receptions per game range. We know that the Chargers at pick 5 and have an ability to get a pass catching weapon. Maybe they go offensive lineman. Regardless, Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. If you're a rebuilder, you've got to be willing to move off of someone like that. He's at the bottom of this list at 102. Wide receiver 39 in value, going to be 32 years of age. I still think he'll produce this next season. You'd rather be a year early than a year late. You cannot afford to be a rebuilder and have any injury happen to a Keenan Allen or, even a Travis Kelce, who is, I don't think he's retiring. I'm just putting it out there that these teams are now in position to have the next future receivers come up with that Rashee Rice, with potentially whatever receiver the Los Angeles Chargers take. That is really going to be the future of those teams, is the younger guys. It's just almost that time. It really is. So Keenan Allen, I would absolutely entertain offers for him. And Adam Thielen, when I say sell low, I should clarify, if you can sell, if you can trade and get a second for Travis Kelce, try to get an early second for Travis Kelce. I might start with the first. He did have a good bounce back game in the playoffs. He's delivering in these playoffs. So, people have been able to trade high on a Sky Moore type based on playoffs. The playoffs are not the regular season. These players are leaving it all out there. We've seen Gronkowski in the past where he would kind of skate through seasons and just save all of his energy for the playoffs. So even if he does play a Travis Kelce, he may be preserving himself for the playoffs, and they may lean on some of the younger receivers that they have to carry them. So if you can get a second, it's tough when it's not point scoring season. I'm actually open to getting a third for players like a Adam Thielen. The close value here, they've got early second, however, in the same tier. So maybe you can get a second for Keenan Allen. I would take a mid-second, probably nothing later than a mid-second. Get me in that running back tier that will be in the 201 to 206 range, whatever that may be. That might be what I would look towards. And for the win now teams, the Quentin Johnston type, really, when it comes to Dynasty, we don't have a finite roster. And if you're a win now team, when the season rolls around, you're going to want to be able to pick up whoever the hottest players are on the waivers. Because of the injuries, there's going to be running backs that pop up, and you want to be able to have a lot of room on your rosters for that. You don't want to just have these developing wide receivers that may or may not be able to be the lead receiver in their wide receiver core. So trading a Quentin Johnson, even though the value is low, to get a second round pick, I know he may not be worth that. We'll see what you can get. We need to go ahead and at least go to the next page. Hopefully, not too many pages I have to go to find Quentin Johnston. Let's see. Okay, so 146, wide receiver 52, will be 24 years old to start, 22 years old to start the season. Around him, there's not really players I want to pivot to, but if you can get a 2025 second, I'm taking it. It's blind right now. It could be early. There's not really a receiver I want to pivot to. Maybe you can pivot to a receiver and get a third. That may be more likely. Just because this is on the consensus for a community, it doesn't mean someone's actually going to give you a second in your league. So maybe you do a Trey Palmer and a third. Really you're just wanting the third because you want to have that flexibility to be able to just have that asset that you can trade for a running back when an injury pops up, or just have that open roster spot and use, get that draft pick and use that open roster spot. And that is it for the buy high, buy low, sell high, sell lows. Really want to see just if there's any other ones I want to touch on. No, I think that's it. So let's go ahead and close it out, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching the Dynasty Football Key. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you play fantasy football, Dynasty football. Let me know who you're buying, who you're selling, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.